What is up, guys? Pittsburgh White Schwartz back again with another deck tech. Today I'm bringing you 8-shot Goblin Slayer. Kind of an underrated deck, but I think still very powerful. Carmen's here with me today. He's running the slideshow for me on
Yeah,
his end.
we're
Um,
for
he's going to show you all the cards as I talk about them and tell you why they're so good.
yeah. This is our just as a preface. This is sort of our stand-in while we're all sort of unable to leave our houses for undisclosed reasons that we can't talk about on YouTube. Um, this will be sort of our stand-in for our video style deck techs for the time being. So bear with us. We're gonna try to do it up as well as we can. All right, go
Yeah,
ahead, Andy.
absolutely. So like the big Goblin Slayer deck that gets talked about a lot is the red builds with the level 1 Goblin Slayer combo, either into pretty much any finisher, usually the Priestess wall, but the yellow stuff is really, really good too. And if you're a budget player, it's a really, really solid budget deck. Like the whole deck's probably like $50. Maybe a little bit more now since we added the Arch Priestesses, or Archbishop, whatever. But let's just jump right into it. So level zeros, I got 15 of them. 4 of the Elf High Archer Runner. High Elf Archer Runner. She's a free runner, and when you play her, or when she attacks, you can return 2 characters from your waiting room to your deck and give her an extra soul for the turn. So kind of like that Asuna effect from Sword Art Online. And they're level 0 where you shuffle cards back to get extra soul. But this one can happen over and over. It's whenever it attacks. So you can do that turn after turn if you really wanted to.
Putting soul
Um,
triggers back into your deck is a really important part of the deck, especially for your finisher and for your level 1. So since it's
yeah,
online at
it's
0, you get to do it starting at the beginning of the game.
not only is the runner just a good card on its own, and it does combine really well with another level 0 I'll mention later, but the finisher in the set relies on you milling cards and burning your opponent equal to the number of soul triggers. So even late game going into your kill turn, you can uh, put some soul triggers back in your deck and make your odds better. So it has a lot of long game utility, so that's why I maxed out on this one. Next I got the Inquiry Battle Warrior Archer Brainstormer. She's kind of a weird brainstormer. Um, she rest 1, or pay 1, rest 2, you mill the top 6 cards of your deck. 6 cards. And for if you hit a shot climax, you get to salvage a character from your waiting room. Important to note, you only get 1 salvage max with this. So even if you hit like 4 or 5 climaxes, which rip if that happens, it really sucks when that happens, but it usually doesn't. But even if you hit many climaxes, you only get 1 salvage, but you're pretty much guaranteed to hit it because you're going through 6 cards. And then she has another useful effect too, where when your character's trigger check reveals the specific shot climax, the one that goes with the finisher, you get to salvage either one of your level 3s that go with the combo. So basically, half of your shot triggers are also gate triggers. Usually, 8-shot decks probably wouldn't keep hand advantage very well, but this one builds hand super, super effectively while still being super aggressive, pushing damage with all your shots. So this card really helps out a lot with that, and make sure you can get your finisher off. Next card is the one everyone fears, the big bad Goblin Slayer, the Chaser. If you have 5 or more cards in your hand, he's plus a level, 3,000 power, can run wherever you want. Um, he's in the deck for a red fix for later for some of our level 3 game, but you can't really play Goblin Slayer without this card. It's just too good not to play, even in the all yellow build. So that's why he's there. Interesting note too, he combines really nicely with the runner. Like a really strong opening play I like to do is just play the Elf Runner and the Goblin Slayer Chaser. And because both of their effects allow them to move themselves at the beginning of the combat step, you can order them however you want. So if your opponent's gonna, say, "Oh, I don't want you chasing in front of me with your Goblin Slayer, so I'm gonna put my character in front of your runner, so now you can't chase in front of me because there's a character there." You can just move the runner and then put the chaser where the runner was. You can just completely reorganize your whole field at the start of the attack step, and it really gets pretty nutty and can be very oppressive to deal with.
Yeah, it's unbelievably annoying. Speaking as someone who's like not expected, oh, that's how it works. You got to be prepared that that's how those two effects interact.
I mean, I don't think too many other Goblin Slayer decks run the Elf Runner. I don't know if
Mostly as a
Blue decks
splash.
run it.
They mostly as a splash if they're gonna run the Musashi at the top. Like I've seen some super spicy stuff, like two Elf Runner, one Musashi, where they only have 3 yellow cards. Stuff like that. So like it is a play that you might see in the more mainstream Goblin Slayer decks as well.
This one just does it pretty consistently, and it's definitely probably the most annoying thing you could possibly sit across from at level 0. And then rounding out the level 0s are the new addition to the deck. We added in the Archbishop's Sword Maiden. I'm not usually a big fan of this card. I'm pretty low on it, but the thing I like about it the most is the 1500 extra power. We have an on-reverse combo at level 1, and sometimes it just doesn't get there in terms of power. So 1500 is a pretty nice power boost, and despite my downplaying of the card, it is a very solid level 0 card that is definitely worth a deck spot on its own.
Goblin Slayer also like they always get to level 1 second most of the time because the chaser slows down the 0 game so much. So because you're more than likely going to have to respond to level 1s, the 1500 power is even more important for getting reverses.
Yeah, that's the. I guess let's move on to this. Will funnel right into level 1. Go to the High Elf Archer. Um, this is kind of like the biggest. If I don't want to say problem, because I don't really think it's a problem. Like we have the tools in there to make her get there, but the level 1 combo just doesn't get any extra power on the turn you play it or anything. So just with the Climax, it only gets to 6,000 power and needs to catch a reverse, which can be a little bit tough sometimes, especially with more and more standby decks coming around, but usually you can just pick off their weak lane, and the Sword Maiden does help you get that extra boost of power you need. But anyway, talking about the Elf, on reverse, if you have one of the shot Climaxes in your Climax zone, you mill 3 cards, and you get to choose X order characters in your waiting room and add them to your hand, X being the number of cards with a soul icon that you milled. So, kind of keeping with the same theme of having a lot of actual soul triggers in your deck, you can usually get multiple pluses on this. I mean, sometimes you whiff, but usually you'll get at least 1 plus off this, but there's times where you'll just go from having no hand to having like 8 cards in your hand at the end of turn. It can get crazy. Like 1 reverse can give you 2 or 3 cards of your choice from your waiting room. And it's mill on your first deck too, which is really cool. The other effect on this Archer is all players cannot play event cards with the same name as an event card that was played this turn from hand. So usually on reverse decks really hate playing against AOT because of mobility gear, but at least against AOT with this deck, they can only use 1 mobility gear during your combat step. So they can run one of their errands away maybe, or one of their cards away, but you can get their other lanes because they can only use 1 gear. It's also effective on your opponent's turn too, so surprisingly enough, I think this card would be really good in the Goblin Slayer mirror, because usually Goblin Slayer is going to want to play a bunch of torches in 1 turn, and you stop them from doing this.
It's just so hard to play yellow at level 1 in any other build. It's like really, really difficult.
What do you mean?
Like it's hard to hit the amount of yellow required to consistently field a yellow level 1 card. Like
yeah,
at
so
level
we
1.
talked about this a bit before. Like maybe you tech this elf into a traditional goblins, like a red-blue list. You know what I mean? Like a red list, tech this into a normal Goblin Slayer deck as an out to event decks, but you just don't have enough yellow. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. It is a spicy effect, though.
One other thing we considered doing was running at torches in this deck, too. we do have a bit of red fix to give you an edge in the Goblin Slayer mirror. If you have a lot of Goblin Slayer in your meta and you want to play the yellow shot deck, consider tacking some torches in at level 1. Because, like, on your turn, if you play a torch and then go to attack your opponent, you know, they're going to want to use their torches to mill through their deck, but they can't use them now because you played torch.
Yeah. Or you can just play the Force Torches to pull up their back row for Elf reverses. They have the same name, so you can't play the other Mill Torch either.
I think to play the Force Torch, you need a Goblin Slayer character on your
Yeah,
field.
but your
So it might be a bit tough,
chaser might
but
stay around. Might be
that is a
possible.
cool idea, though, helping you get reverses.
Yeah. But anyway, should move on to the Dwarf Shaman here.
Yeah, Elf's just a really cool card that definitely deserves to be played a bit more. The Dwarf and the Lizard Priest, the other two members of her party, help her out too at level 1. We have the generous, heavy drinker, Dwarf Shaman.
My man.
Geez, sounds like someone I know. When this card's placed on the stage from your hand, you choose one of your characters, give them 1,500 power. So usually you'll just give this to the elf to help get the reverse. And when you attack with this dwarf and his trigger reveals a shot, you also get a salvage character. So unlike the brainstormer from before, this works off any shot trigger. So if he attacks and triggers a shot, you know, good for you. If you have some way to top check the top of your deck before you go to your attacks, you can kind of set up a guaranteed plus with this. But mostly I run them because of the 1,500 power. And then Battle Stance Lizard Priest. I have 3 copies of him. When your other order character attacks, he gets 1,500 power for the turn, and you can pay 1 Twin Drive on his attack. So I usually like to maybe field one of this with 2 other cards and attack with it last. That way he gets the most power. And then it gives me the option, too, if I trigger a Climax, I can immediately pay it out if you leave him to swing last. At the end of the game, too, if you're pretty compressed, you can try to like push extra damage by triggering more shot triggers, too. That's pretty cool.
Twin Drive's
yeah,
broken.
Twin Drive seems pretty good in a set where you're running 8 shot triggers.
Twin Drive is just good all the time. It's like just always good. I'm convinced it's like one of the most broken effects they've like recently printed in Wise is Twin Drive.
Yeah, it's definitely a really good option, and it kind of rounds out the level 1 package here because the elf and the dwarf are kind of a little bit weak on power, but if you swing with the lizard last, he's 6,500 before any other buffs, so he gets up there. And rounding out the level 1s, I got a Great Health Cowgirl. It's a 2,500 backup. The only reason I'm running it is because... Okay, so there's a yellow backup you'd usually run in 8-shot. It's like a elf backup that says if all your characters are yellow, you get to stock the top card of your deck. So it's essentially like a free 2k backup, and it has a soul icon, but I'm kind of running a more good stuff build here. I have a lot of red cards and some blue cards mixed in, too. So I wasn't confident I'd be able to hit that condition all the time, so I'm just going with this level 1 backup instead. And I already had a few other backups at level 2, so I kind of wanted to diversify it a little bit and give myself an option at level 1 in case I wanted to go for a backup at level 1. And like, you're not always going to be using the anti-change on your anti-change backup, so you don't need a million copies of it.
Makes you more flexible.
A little bit more flexible. And, you know, people don't expect backups on weak characters, too. Like, they'll say, oh, Elf 5,000, that's a free reverse, you know? So they'll swing something like...
A union into it for 7.
Yeah, and it's like, you can get there with something, you know? Backups are always good, even on weak characters, because people won't expect it. Going on to level 2, I don't have a ton of level 2s. 2 of the anti-change backup, which kind of helps round out the backup package with the Cowgirl. It's also a 2,500, and discard 2 cards to anti-change. Which is actually, you know, surprisingly easy to hit, because you're plussing so much every turn with your quote-unquote guaranteed brainstorm. I'm doing air quotes right now. And the archer at level 1 that's going to get you multiple pluses off of reverse. And we have 2 copies of the Dwarf Level Assist. When you play him, he has a pretty cool effect. You get to look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put them back in the same order, and then look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck and do them in the same order. I'm a huge fan of this card effect. It's really cool when you run it with shot triggers too, because you can kind of see how your opponent's deck stacks up. So if you know they're going to cancel on a certain attack, you can try to swing weak in that lane, or if you see that the top of your deck has a shot, you can try to make sure you get your shot on the attack that they cancel. So there's definitely like a good skill ceiling with this card. And going into your finisher as well, he lets you, because the finisher mills 5 and burns equal numbers soul triggers, so you can kind of plan your attack. It's like if the top couple cards of your deck don't have souls on them, you can just swing with the dwarf later to get more potential hits. And then bridging the gap for the level 2 game, I got 3 of the Cowgirl early play. She's 2 or less climax in your waiting room. She gets to early play. And you get to your next deck pretty easy with this deck because you have the mill 6 Brainstormer. So you can pretty much get through the end of your deck if you need to. And she pluses you when you play her. You look at X cards. Can help you get into your shot, either one of your shot triggers for one of your combos. Or it just helps you mill through your deck a little bit more to get to your next deck if you want to have more soul triggers go back.
Also another on attack buff. If you need to snipe a lane with like another round of combo at level 2, can help you out.
Mm-hmm. Can help you, like if you want to go for another combo at level 1, it can really get there. And then the other level 3s, I'm running 4 of each copy of the finisher combo. The main finisher is the Dwarf. He, when you play him, you get draw 2 cards and then discard a card. And then when he attacks, you pay 4, which is a pretty steep cost. But you pay 4 when you attack with him, and you mill the top 5 cards of your deck, and you burn your opponent for 1, equal to the number of soul triggers you hit. So to clarify, if you hit like 3 soul triggers, you're burning. It's burn 1, burn 1, burn 1, not burn 3, which is really, really, really good. Because pinging in the late game is extremely, extremely effective. But maybe that's just confirmation bias, because playing against Mikasa enough, you ping off their climax and slam them for like 1,000,000 damage. But it definitely, definitely gets there. And then the Lizard Priest on play, he heals you, and when you play the shot climax, you can summon the dwarf from your waiting room to your field. So he's not really as essential, but it does let you push more damage later in the game because the dwarf's combo is so stock heavy. Being able to like get a free level 3 on the field is pretty nice. At first, I was only running like 3 copies of each, but I found myself, if you want to go back to the Brainstorm Carmen, I found myself whiffing that effect on the Brainstorm too often, where you trigger the shot climax and you get a free salvage. You want to make sure you have a card to take back. So that's why I maxed out on these. So in your Mulligan, on your opening turn, like try to get some copies of I'll always try to keep some copies of the Lizard Priest and Dwarf Shaman in your waiting room so you can always plus off that Brainstormer's effect. Even later in the game, make sure you have some lizards in there. And then rounding it out, I got 2 copies of the Musashi. Just a super, super good card in general. Really good off finisher for Goblin Slayer. And it has a soul trigger on it, so I don't feel so bad about running so many level 3s.
The bounce is good in those matchups where you need to bounce Futaba, i.e. one matchup. But, it happens. That's a deck people play, so. Second effect is also relevant.
Yeah, for sure. Like you just put this in the open lane and hit them with Musashi. It kind of fits in the whole theme of shot triggers where like you burn them when they cancel. So going into your kill turn, if you have a setup like Musashi, Dwarf, Lizard, or something, you're burning for a lot of damage potentially, especially if you played the back row Dwarf that turn and can check your top couple cards. to make sure you get the maximum burn off with the Dwarf. You can really push a lot of damage. With the Musashi effect that pings from the Dwarf, and then all your shot triggers that you just inherently have in your deck. You can really get there. And since the English meta specifically doesn't have anti-ping yet, I think this deck could really catch people off guard. Just pinging is super strong, and there's really no answer for it right now.
No, yeah, we don't have that effect yet. Come on, Adventure Time.
if we ever do get that effect, this deck gets a little bit worse, but it's not like we're going to be... That effect's going to be like super, super prominent either.
Yeah, it depends how popular that set ends up being.
But that would be a very, very bad matchup for this deck if there ever was like an anti-ping memory. Kind of like Kimono Friends has that card in memory that doesn't let you ping. It's a real bad matchup. Seems like a really, really shit matchup. But hey, if you're not playing into one of those decks and you like burning your opponent for 1, 8 shot triggers is pretty fun to run. That's all I got. You got anything else to add, Carmen?
No, I think that's it. In terms of upcoming content, like I said at the beginning, these are going to sort of take the place of our video-style deck techs for a while, because, of course, we're in Pittsburgh. The situation has become fairly ridiculous here in terms of us not being able to leave our house, so... these are going to sort of take the place of that for a bit. We still want to do the digital deck techs. Those do take a lot more time and effort to put together, so we're trying to do like that, like maybe every other week, and one of these on the off weeks. I think that should be pretty achievable. Other than that, we have some more stuff in the pipeline. What's the next English set? We already did JoJo's. We did Fujimi.
That would be...
God.
Adventure Time?
Is it Adventure Time? No, I think Bang Dream's the next set. I think Bang Dream's in May.
Oh, yeah, Bang Dream.
Bang Dream Volume 2. Yeah, there are only 2 Bang Dream sets. Only 2.
2 yet. Just wait.
So, but yeah, that one's pretty important for English. Specifically, that deck is... The deck that set creates is really strong, so definitely look out for a pre-review for that. I'm putting that together now. And we have some other stuff in the pipeline, too, so secret stuff, so...
Stay tuned. We got some fun goodies for you guys.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. But yeah, other than that, I think we're done here.
I think that's it. Pittsburgh White Schwartz signing off. I gotta say it for once.
See you guys.
Next time, guys.
Stay safe.